One man Man City have been chasing so much this summer is Elliot Anderson. Some people say the Premier League giants don't need him as they already have Rodri, but they're not budging. They want the English midfielder and are ready to break the bank for him. Why though? Why him? You'll find out in this video today. This is why Manchester City want Elliot Anderson. Hey fam, this is your chance to build the jersey collection you've been waiting for. The Goal 90 bundle deal is live. Buy 2 jerseys and get 10% off. Buy 3 and get 15% off. Buy 4 and get a massive 25% off. Club kits, country kits, retro classics, pick your favorites and save big. And yes, every order comes with free worldwide shipping. The deal runs only until the end of May. Goal 90 bundle deal. Buy more, save more. Shop now at Goal 90 Shop. First of all, having said goodbye to Bernardo Silva at the end of the season, City knew that they had to fill that void with a new midfielder in this window, and it just so happens that Elliot Anderson is the man who ticks all those boxes. What boxes are those exactly? Well, first of all, he has proven to be one of the best midfielders in England. And we're not just saying that, the statistics actually prove it. He's one of those players who is referred to as an all-action midfielder, and that's because there's just nothing he cannot do. Among midfielders in the Premier League this season, he was in the top 5 for most tackles and was one of only a handful of players to win over a century of tackles in the league. He was also in the top 5 for most interceptions and in the top 10 for most blocked shots compared to other midfielders in the league. But it gets even more interesting. When you compare him to every single player who played in the Premier League this season, Elliot Anderson comes out at number 1 for most ground duels won. He was also number 1 for total duels won, winning almost 300 duels in the English top flight. This is a player who is always ready to dig in and provide cover for his defense. He is a hard worker who just never stops running and cleaning up for his team. In the 2025-26 season, he won possession more times than anyone did in the 2023-24 and 2024-25 seasons. That is just absolutely bonkers. And he doesn't just do it for his club, he also does it for the England national team. Anderson only just made his 3 Lions debut last year, but he was able to impress enough to secure a starting spot at this World Cup. On top of that, in the Thomas Tuchel era, Elliot Anderson is the player who has won the most possession, and by a mile too. After the opener against Croatia, Anderson had won possession 78 times for England under Tuchel. The next best, Declan Rice, who has won possession 27 times in more minutes. Anderson is just insane, but at the same time, he is a player who makes things happen going forward and generates a lot of football from deep. No midfielder attempted and completed more passes than him in the Premier League in the just concluded season. In fact, he was the only midfielder who completed over 2,000 passes in the league, and he did it with a very impressive accuracy of 85.52%. He also holds the record for most accurate passes by an England player in an away game after he completed 121 passes in the World Cup qualifier against Latvia in October 2025. So, with him, you have a player who can stop an attack and almost immediately start one for his team. This right here is a special player. And here's the thing, he's not one of those deep-lying midfielders who just rack up the numbers with sideways passes. Anderson actually progresses the ball. He was 3rd among midfielders for most passes in the opposition half, completing more opposition half passes than even Bruno Fernandes. Perhaps even more impressively, he was in the top 5 in the entire league for most accurate final third passes. Remember, he plays deep in the midfield, but there's more. In Forest's game against Everton back in December, he made 30 line-breaking passes, the most by a midfielder in a Premier League match across the last 2 seasons. As you can see, this is a player who actually does progress the ball, but he doesn't just progress it, he actually creates chances while at it. He was in the top 10 for most chances created in the league this season. He created 55 chances, which meant that Cherki and Doku were the only Man City players who created more chances in the Premier League than Anderson in the entire season. As you can already see, this is a very special player. He just doesn't hide. Defensively, he's there. Offensively, he's there. And of course, when it comes to doing what a midfielder needs to do, he's also there. This is the perfect all-action midfielder, and you can surely understand why City see him as the heir to Bernardo Silva's throne. But there are even more reasons Manchester City wants him, and we'll talk about it in a second. But if you aren't yet subscribed to the channel, go do that right away so you never miss out on our amazing content. Done? Okay, let's get back to Elliot Anderson. So, even though his job is to give cover to his defense and progress the ball by passing or carrying, Anderson still brings a lot more to the team. He contributed to 8 Premier League goals for Nottingham Forest this season. What that means is that he was directly involved in almost 17% of all the goals Forest scored this season. Being able to do this while playing deep for a team that's quite defensive is surely very impressive. Imagine how much more he'll be able to do in a more attacking setup and surrounded by better players at Manchester City. It's not like Man City will be relying on him to come up with goals or anything, but it's always a huge plus when your midfielder can also bail you out with important goals every now and then. In addition to all of that, there's an underrated quality that Elliot Anderson has, and that's his availability. He is a player who is always present. Looking at how much Rodri has been struggling with injuries in recent seasons, signing a player who you can rely on to be available for the whole season now seems very important for City. Anderson featured in every single one of Forest's 38 Premier League games this season and was in the top 10 in the league for total minutes played. When you remove goalkeepers and defenders who just never get taken off during games, he shoots up to the top 3. Elliot Anderson has picked up an injury only once in his career, and that was back in 2023. Best believe this is one of the things Manchester City find very valuable about him. And here's one thing that might shock you. Elliot Anderson might seem like nothing more than a destroyer and deep-lying playmaker, but this guy is actually a bit of an entertainer as well. Believe it or not, Anderson was actually one of the best dribblers in the Premier League this season. He was in the top 10 for most dribbles completed, and when you consider just midfielders, he was second behind just Rayan Cherki, who is actually more of an attacker than a midfielder in that Man City setup. He was also just one of 3 players to complete 6+ dribbles and create 6+ chances in a single game in the Premier League this season. The only other players who managed this were attackers, Jeremy Doku and Bukayo Saka. Guys, this is really a perfect player. He's literally one of the best in the league when it comes to making interceptions and tackles, winning duels, passing, creating chances, and also entertaining the crowd with dribbles. What can this guy not do? And speaking of entertainment, he knows how to raise the roof with his goals. When he scores, it's usually a banger. Manchester City themselves can bear witness to this. His goal at the Etihad this season to help Forest come away with a point was a superb one, and in many ways it was similar to the one that also won them a point against Newcastle. He knows how to play with his teammates, start a move and finish it off. That's a trait that will always be useful when you're at a top club. This guy having all these traits means that he can actually play alongside Rodri, so it doesn't have to be one or the other. They can both cohabit in that midfield. And to top it all off, Anderson is only just 23 years old, so this is a player who is already one of the best in the world at what he does, but can still give you a good decade of football. There's a reason why Forest are demanding over £100 million in order to release him. They know that they have a real gem on their hands. They think he is good enough to become the most expensive midfielder in the history of the league, and with what we've seen from him as well as what the stats say, it is really hard to argue with that. But it is now time to hear from you guys. Do you think that Elliot Anderson is worth all that money, or is this going to be just another Jack Grealish affair? How well do you think he'll perform in a Manchester City shirt? Get in the comments and talk to us. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also turn on the bell notification so you never miss out on new content. Catch you in the next one. Bye!